The world is ending, or at least that's what scientists are predicting. From supernovas to zombie viruses, here are 5 times scientists have predicted the end of the world. When it comes to the heat death of the universe, there's no need to worry. The world is going to end in around 1 trillion years. But there are some other end-of-the-world scenarios that could happen much sooner. And surprisingly, scientists have actually predicted when these events might occur. Some of their predictions are relatively close to now, and others might surprise you. Here are 5 times scientists have predicted the end of the world. First, we have to look at the heat death of the universe. It may be the most likely scenario for the end of the world, but it won't happen for quite a long time. So you can relax about this one for now. In fact, you could live a few billion lives and then the heat death of the universe would occur. At some point in the future, the temperature of the universe will reach a maximum and all stars will turn into white dwarfs. Nothing will be able to produce energy anymore and the universe will simply drift into darkness. However, according to our current understanding of physics, the heat death of the universe should happen in around 10 to the power of 100 years from now. This is also known as a big heat death or heat death of the universe. It has been theorized that the heat death of the universe is not really an option because there is a chance that new sources of energy could be discovered. However, if there are any, they will remain undiscovered for a very long time. According to Dr. John Barrow, a professor of natural philosophy at Cambridge University, once the stars start to die out, that's it for the universe. There is nothing left to explode, nothing left to burn. The universe will be dead. It is impossible to put a definitive time frame on it, but it will be far off in the future. As humans, we probably won't witness it, but it is an inevitability. However, the heat death of the universe isn't the only scientific prediction of when the world might end. Another theory is the heat death of the sun. The sun provides us with life. It helps sustain our planet, and without it, we would freeze to death. However, the sun will eventually run out of fuel and the Earth will be too far away to save us. If you're looking to move somewhere else in the solar system, you won't be able to do so soon enough. NASA believes the sun will expand to the orbit of Venus within 5 billion years. That means the Earth will be roasted by the sun before it expands to the orbit of Mars. When that happens, the world as we know it will essentially end. However, there is a chance that the Earth is pushed beyond the orbit of Mars before the sun expands. This could happen if the sun suddenly goes supernova. If that were to happen, the Earth would likely get scorched to death along with the rest of the solar system. However, luckily, astronomers believe this shouldn't happen for another 500 million years. But we aren't quite done yet. There are more scientific theories as to when the world will end, including the oxygen death of the Earth. According to many scientists, the amount of oxygen on the planet could decrease to the point where it becomes impossible to breathe. If that were to happen, the world as we know it would end very quickly. Many scientists say this could happen in the next 1,000 years. Even though plants and algae produce around 50% of the oxygen in the Earth's atmosphere, forests and oceans absorb a lot of oxygen during the day when they are photosynthesizing. If this continues, there will be less oxygen available in the atmosphere for humans to breathe, which could lead to mass extinction. This is obviously bad news for us humans, but it's not the worst news on this list. One scientist even predicted when the apocalypse would occur. Of course, he was referring to the Christian Armageddon, but it still stands. Sir Robert Oppenheimer was the man behind developing the first atomic bomb. He was essentially the father of the atomic age. He was a physicist who was involved in several other scientific endeavors. And in his spare time, he liked to do a bit of biblical interpretation. In 1962, while speaking at a conference, he estimated that the apocalypse would happen in 500 years. Obviously, he was talking about the Christian Armageddon, but it still stands. However, he didn't just stop there. He went on to elaborate that World War III would start in 30 years, which would then lead to the apocalypse. Well, the world is currently on track for World War III, but it hasn't started yet. And there are only 27 years left until Oppenheimer's prediction comes true. What do you think? Will the world really end in 27 years? Let me know in the comments below. If you're enjoying this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe for more great content. Now let's get back to the list. One of the most popular predictions as to when the world might end is the Mayan calendar. Back in December of 2012, many people believed that the world would end. That's because the Mayan calendar predicted it. The Mayan civilization thrived in Mesoamerica from the 2nd century BC to the 16th century AD. They were known for their incredible calendar system, and many people believed that their predictions were accurate. When the Mayan calendar reached the end of its cycle, many people thought that it meant the end of the world. However, it turned out that the world did end in 2012. But there is a chance that the Mayans weren't actually wrong. Instead, some people believe that the Mayan calendar predicted the beginning of a new era rather than the end of the world. However, there's no evidence either way, so we don't really know whether the Mayans were right or wrong. But one thing is for certain, the Mayans were a highly intelligent civilization, and their calendar system was incredibly advanced. There's no denying that the world is going to end at some point in the future, but it's likely that it will be the heat death of the universe. However, there are other possibilities, and scientists have made some predictions as to when these events might take place. Some of these predictions are relatively close to now, while others are far off in the future. Which prediction do you think is the most likely? Do you think the world will end in 2045, 500 years from now, or in 10 billion years? Let me know in the comments below. And before you go, be sure to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe for more great content. Now it's time to look at the next one. Scientists have recently warned that a zombie virus could be brought back to life at any moment. This may sound like something straight out of a horror movie, but it's actually a real concern for scientists. The Siberian permafrost contains a number of ancient viruses that have been frozen for thousands of years. These viruses include the Malavirus sibericum, which was discovered in 2003, and the Pithovirus sibericum, which was discovered in 2014. Both of these viruses had been dormant for thousands of years before they were awakened by scientists. There is no doubt that the Siberian permafrost contains even older and potentially more dangerous viruses. One of these viruses could be a zombie virus, which is a virus that rewrites the genetic material of its host in such a way that it can control the host's behavior. Zombie viruses could be used as biological weapons, or they could simply be released accidentally. The risk of this happening is small, but it's not zero. Scientists are working hard to study these viruses and understand the risks that they pose. They are also developing ways to prevent them from being released accidentally. However, there is always the possibility that one of these viruses could escape and cause havoc. So how worried should we be? According to Dr. Jamie Clavery, a virologist at the University of Cambridge, the risk of a zombie virus outbreak is very low. However, we should still take precautions to prevent these viruses from being released. And lastly, we have the theory that the world will end in 2045. This may sound crazy, but it's actually based on some pretty solid science. According to a group of researchers led by Dr. Michio Kaku, the world will end in 2045 due to a lack of resources. The world population is currently around 7.6 billion people, and it is expected to reach 8.9 billion by 2050. This means that in just a few decades, there will be over 1 billion more people on the planet. Where will all of these people live? How will they get food and water? According to Dr. Kaku, the world simply can't support this many people. Eventually, we will run out of resources, and the world as we know it will collapse. This could happen through wars, famines, or pandemics. Basically, it doesn't matter how, but it will happen. Of course, this is just one theory, and there is no evidence that it will actually come true. However, it's important to remember that Dr. Kaku is a theoretical physicist and a futurist. He is someone who studies the future and tries to predict what will happen based on current trends. So while his prediction should definitely be taken with a grain of salt, it's still worth considering. Which of these predictions do you think is the most likely? Do you think the world will end in 2045, 500 years from now or in 10 billion years? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe for more great content.